I spent $15,000 on a family vacation to Myrtle Beach. My wife invited her ex-boyfriend and told me to stay home while he takes my spot. Her mother smirked and said, "Give Derek's ticket to Daniel." I smiled, pulled out my phone, and made one call that destroyed their lives forever. My name is Derek Bradley. I'm 48 years old, and for the past 18 years, I thought I had it all figured out. I own Bradley Home Solutions, a house flipping company that's turned me from a guy with a pickup truck into someone with a seven-figure net worth. Started small, buying foreclosed properties in rough neighborhoods, doing the work myself. Weekends, evenings, holidays didn't matter. We've been married 17 years now. Met Stacy when I was just getting started. She was working at a real estate office, bright smile, knew how to talk to people. She helped me find my first few properties, and I guess I fell for more than just her sales pitch. Marriage felt like a natural partnership. The business grew, and so did her lifestyle. 5 years ago, I bought us a custom-built colonial in Westfield Heights. 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, chef's kitchen that Stacy insisted on but rarely uses. I spend my days making houses beautiful for other people, while my own home feels more like a showpiece. Stacy's mother Margaret moved in with us 3 years back after her husband passed. Made sense at the time. Big house, plenty of room, and Margaret needed help with expenses. What I didn't anticipate was how she'd settle in like she owned the place. Started treating me less like family and more like the hired help who pays all the bills. Then there's Tony, Stacy's younger brother. 35 years old and still figuring out his life, as Stacy puts it. I call it being a professional mooch. Tony's always got some new business idea, some surefire scheme that just needs a small investment. Somehow, I've become his personal bank. Car payments, rent, even grocery money sometimes. The thing about success is that it changes how people see you. Suddenly, you're not just Derek anymore. You're Derek who can afford things, Derek who won't miss a few thousand here and there. I planned this Myrtle Beach vacation as a kind of reset. Business has been incredible this year. Flipped 12 properties with an average profit of 48 grand each. Thought it was time to celebrate. Bring everyone together for something special. Rented a massive oceanfront house for a week, something that runs about 15 grand. Figured we'd all decompress. Maybe remember why we're family. Should have known better. Should have remembered that in my world, I'm the general contractor, but I'm not the one who gets to approve the final plans. 2 weeks before we were supposed to leave, everything started falling apart. The first sign something was off came during what should have been a routine dinner conversation. I was sitting at our granite kitchen island, laptop open, finalizing the Myrtle Beach house details. The place was perfect, 6 bedrooms, private pool, direct beach access, the works. I'd already put down the deposit, booked the flights for 5 people, even arranged for a private chef 2 nights. So the house sleeps 12 comfortably. I told Stacy, showing her the photos. Your mom gets the master suite on the ground floor, easier for her knees. Tony can have a room with the twin beds. Might remind him of being a kid again. Stacy barely glanced at the screen. She was scrolling through her phone, that little smile playing on her lips. The one I used to love, but lately made my stomach tighten. Sounds great, honey, she said without looking up. Actually, I've been meaning to tell you. We might need to adjust the sleeping arrangements. I closed the laptop, giving her my full attention. Adjust how? Well, I ran into Daniel at the grocery store yesterday. She said his name like it was nothing, like mentioning an old co-worker instead of her ex-boyfriend from college. We got to talking, and he's going through a rough time. Divorce just finalized, pretty messy stuff. My jaw tightened. Daniel Morrison. I knew exactly who she meant. The guy she dated for 3 years before we met. The one whose picture she kept in her jewelry box until I found it 2 years into our marriage. The same Daniel who'd shown up at our wedding reception uninvited, causing enough of a scene that my best man had to escort him out. That's unfortunate, I said carefully. But what does that have to do with our vacation? Stacy finally looked up from her phone. I invited him to come with us. You know, help him get his mind off things. It'll be fun like old times. The words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline, the just kidding that never came. You invited your ex-boyfriend on our family vacation. My voice came out flat, controlled. Oh, come on, Derek. That was 20 years ago. We're all adults here. She waved her hand, dismissively. Besides, it's not like the house isn't big enough. And you always say family should help family. Daniel isn't family, Stacy. He's your ex. Ancient history, she said, standing up and grabbing her coffee mug. Honestly, I thought you'd be more mature about this. It's just a vacation. Just a vacation. The vacation I planned, I paid for, I'd arranged every detail of. Now featuring her ex-boyfriend as a special guest. Margaret chose that moment to shuffle into the kitchen, her walker tapping against the tile. What's all this about Daniel coming? Oh, how wonderful. I always liked that boy. So much more energetic than some people. She shot me a pointed look. 20 years of marriage, 17 years of supporting this family. And I was still being compared to the guy who couldn't hold down a job long enough to afford an engagement ring. It's settled then, Stacy announced. I'll text him the flight details tonight. I sat there, watching my wife and her mother discuss my vacation like I wasn't even in the room. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. The way they talked, the casual mentions, the prepared responses. They'd already discussed this. Planned it. I was just the last to know. The family dinner was supposed to be a celebration. Margaret had insisted on cooking her famous pot roast. And for once, everyone was actually showing up on time. I should have known something was up when Tony arrived without asking to borrow money first. We were all seated around the dining room table I'd custom built from reclaimed oak, another one of my projects that nobody really appreciated. Margaret sat at the head like some kind of matriarch, Stacy to her right, Tony across from me, and Daniel right next to my wife like he belonged there. Daniel looked good, I had to admit. Still had that easy smile that used to make me want to punch him in college. He'd filled out some. Success treating him well. Probably 46 now, wearing a designer shirt that cost more than most people's car payments. Derek, this house is incredible, Daniel said, cutting into his meat. Stacy's told me about your business. Flipping houses, right? That's really something. 12 this year. I replied evenly. Average profit of 48 grand each. Margaret cleared her throat loudly. Daniel was just telling us about his new restaurant venture. 3 locations already. Isn't that right, dear? Dear. She was calling my wife's ex-boyfriend dear at my dinner table. It's been a good run, Daniel said modestly. Though I have to say, Derek, I'm jealous of this setup you've got here. Beautiful home, successful business, perfect family. His eyes lingered on Stacy when he said it. Tony, ever the subtle one, jumped right in. So Daniel, you excited about Myrtle Beach? Should be a blast having you along. I set my fork down carefully. Actually, we haven't finalized those arrangements yet. The table went silent. Margaret's smile turned icy. What do you mean finalized? Stacy asked, her voice sharp. I already told Daniel he could come. And I'm telling you now that I have concerns about it. Daniel held up his hands. Hey, if this is going to cause problems, I can bow out. The last thing I want is to create tension. No, Margaret said firmly. You're not bowing out of anything. Derek's just being difficult. Difficult. For not wanting my wife's sex on a vacation I was paying for. Look, I said, keeping my voice level. This was supposed to be a family trip. Daniel isn't family. He's more family than you think, Tony muttered under his breath. The words hit like ice water. I looked around the table, seeing smirks and satisfied expressions. This wasn't just about adding Daniel to the trip. This was about replacing me with him. What exactly does that mean, Tony? Before he could answer, Stacy jumped in. It means you're being selfish, Derek. We're trying to help someone going through a hard time, and all you can think about is money. The money I earned. For the vacation I planned. For the family I support. Our money, Margaret corrected. Marriage makes it our money. I looked at Daniel, who was trying to look uncomfortable, but couldn't hide the satisfaction in his eyes. You know what? You're right. It is our money. And since it's our decision, here's what we're going to do. I stood up, pulled out my phone, and started typing. Derek, what are you doing? Stacy demanded. Making some changes to our travel arrangements. I canceled the first flight reservation while still standing at the dinner table. The confirmation email pinged immediately. Derek Bradley booking canceled. Full refund processing. Derek, stop this right now, Margaret commanded, but I was already working on the second booking. You can't just cancel our vacation. Stacy shrieked, jumping to her feet. Watch me. The second confirmation came through. Then the third. Daniel finally spoke up, his voice smooth as ever. Look, Derek, maybe we should talk about this like adults. I looked up from my phone. Adults? You mean like how adults don't invite their exes on family vacations without consulting their spouses? That's enough, Stacy snapped. You're embarrassing yourself. I'm embarrassing myself. I laughed, and it wasn't a pleasant sound. I'm not the one trying to turn our anniversary vacation into a reunion with my ex-boyfriend. Tony leaned back in his chair, grinning. Come on, man. Don't be such a control freak. We'll all have fun. Here's the thing about fun, Tony. The person paying for it gets to decide what that looks like. I cancel the house rental next. $15,000 back in my account, with a few taps. Margaret's face was turning purple. You can't do this to family. You're right, I said, pocketing my phone. I can't do this to family. But I can do it to people who treat me like an ATM with legs. Stacy's voice turned cold. Fine. If that's how you want to be, we'll just give your ticket to Daniel. He actually knows how to have a good time. There it was. The words I've been waiting for. The confirmation of what I already suspected. My ticket. I asked quietly. Daniel's coming with us whether you like it or not, she continued. If you don't want to go, that's your choice. We'll manage just fine without you. Daniel had the decency to look slightly uncomfortable, but not enough to actually leave or decline the offer. I looked around the table one more time. My wife, ready to replace me with her ex. Her mother, treating me like hired help. Her brother, enjoying the show. And Daniel, sitting in my dining room, eating my food, preparing to take my place. You know what, Stacy? You're absolutely right. You will manage just fine without me. I walked to my office, grabbed my laptop, and started typing. New flight booking, 1 passenger, one-way ticket. Not to Myrtle Beach. Somewhere much better. Behind me, I could hear Stacy's voice rising. Derek, get back here. You can't just leave. But I already had. In every way that mattered, I was already gone. The ticket confirmation came through. One-way flight to Tuscany, Italy. Departing in 3 days. I smiled for the first time in weeks. By the time I'd packed a single suitcase with essentials, my phone was blowing up. Texts from Stacy, voicemails from Margaret, even a rambling message from Tony about how I was overreacting to a simple misunderstanding. I ignored them all. Instead, I called Marcus Webb, the lawyer who'd handled my business incorporation 5 years ago. He answered on the second ring. Derek, little late for business calls, isn't it? Marcus, I need you to start separation proceedings. Tonight, if possible. Silence on the other end. Then, okay, want to tell me what happened? I gave him the condensed version, the vacation ambush, Daniel's invitation, Stacy's ultimatum about giving him my ticket. Marcus listened without interrupting. How long you been married? 17 years. Kids? No. Property? House is in my name. Business is mine. I've got documentation showing I paid for everything. Smart man. I'll draw up the papers first thing tomorrow. You want to hit them fast and hard. I want to hit them with everything legal allows. After hanging up, I transferred money from our joint accounts into my business accounts. Not all of it. I wasn't going to be accused of hiding assets, but enough to protect what I'd earned. Stacy hadn't contributed a dime to our savings in 5 years anyway. My phone rang. Stacy's number. I answered. Derek, what the hell are you doing? Her voice was sharp, angry. Tony just told me you called a lawyer. Tony needs to mind his own business. This is insane. It's just a vacation. A vacation where you invited your ex-boyfriend and told me I could stay home while he takes my place. Yes, Stacy. Just a vacation. He's not taking your place. Then why did you offer him my ticket? Silence. Finally, I was angry. I said things I didn't mean. No, you said exactly what you meant. The truth finally came out. Derek, please. Come home. We can work this out. I looked around the hotel room I'd booked for the night. Clean, quiet, nobody demanding anything from me. I'm home, Stacy. For the first time in years, I'm exactly where I belong. What about the business? What about everything we've built? What have we built? I built a business. I bought a house. I supported your family. What exactly did you build? Another long silence. If you do this, Derek, there's no going back. You're right. There isn't. I hung up and powered off the phone. Tomorrow I'd be on a plane to Florence, Italy. Tonight, I was going to sleep better than I had in months. They wanted to play games with my money and my life. Now they'd learn what happened when the bank closed permanently. 3 days later, I was sipping espresso at a sidewalk cafe in Florence when Belle, Tony's ex-girlfriend, sent me the photos. She'd broken up with Tony the month before, but still lived in the same apartment complex as Margaret. The pictures were too good not to share, she said. There they were, standing in the departure terminal at Myrtle Beach Airport, looking like they'd been hit by a truck. Margaret in her loud floral dress, gripping her walker with white knuckles. Stacy in the vacation outfit she'd bought specifically for the trip, mascara streaked down her cheeks. Tony holding 3 suitcases, looking confused and angry. And Daniel, standing apart from the group, phone pressed to his ear, probably calling an Uber. Belle's text explained what happened. They showed up 3 hours early, all excited. Matching family t-shirts that said, Bradley Beach Bash 2024. When they got to the check-in counter, the agent told them there were no reservations under any of their names. Stacy started crying right there. Margaret demanded to speak to a manager. Tony threw one of the suitcases. I scrolled through more photos. The family t-shirts were particularly satisfying, bright yellow with palm trees and my last name plastered across the front. Money I'd never see again, but worth every penny for the irony. Daniel left after about 20 minutes. Belle continued. Just walked away while they were still arguing with airport security. Didn't even say goodbye. That tracked. Daniel was always good at abandoning ship when things got complicated. Probably why his business was failing too. The best photo was the last one. All 3 of them sitting in the airport food court, surrounded by luggage, staring at their phones like they could will their cancel reservations back into existence. I forwarded the photos to Marcus with a note. Evidence of their attempt to proceed with vacation plans using marital assets after separation filing. He texted back immediately. These are gold. Shows they had no intention of reconciling. I ordered another espresso and opened my laptop. The small apartment I'd rented overlooked the Arno River, and the morning light was perfect for working. I had 3 potential properties to evaluate back home, but my local contact could handle the inspections. My phone buzzed with another message from Belle. Margaret's telling everyone you had a mental breakdown. Says you stole their vacation money and abandoned your family. I typed back, how's that working out for her? Nobody's buying it. Everyone knows they were using you. I smiled and closed the phone. Margaret could spin whatever story she wanted. The truth had a way of coming out, especially when it was backed by bank records and legal documents. In 2 days, I had an appointment to look at a small villa outside Florence. Nothing fancy, just a place where I could think without someone's hand in my pocket. For the first time in 17 years, I was living for myself, and it felt incredible. 2 weeks into my Italian adventure, I decided to check social media for the first time since leaving. Big mistake, but also exactly what I needed to see. Stacy had posted a long, emotional status about her heartless husband who'd abandoned his family over a simple misunderstanding. The post had 37 comments, mostly from her book club friends offering sympathy and calling me everything from selfish to having a midlife crisis. Margaret had shared it with her own commentary. Some people show their true colors when tested. Prayers for my daughter during this difficult time. I screenshot everything and sent it to Marcus. His response was immediate. They're building our case for us. Keep documenting. But Belle had also been busy. She'd posted her own response in a local Facebook group, complete with photos from the airport and a detailed explanation of what really happened. The comments there told a different story. Derek was always too good for that family, wrote Janet Morrison, whose house I'd flipped 3 years ago. They treated him like a walking checkbook. Stacy invited her ex-boyfriend on their vacation and expected Derek to pay for it. Good for him for standing up, posted Mike Shun from the gym. Even some of Stacy's former friends were switching sides. I remember her bragging about how Derek paid for everything while she did whatever she wanted. Maybe he finally got tired of it. The tide was turning, and Stacy was starting to notice. Her next post was more defensive. People are spreading lies about my family. The truth will come out in court. So, she was planning to fight this. I called Marcus from a cafe overlooking the Duomo in Florence. She's going to contest the divorce. I told him, let her. We've got bank records showing you paid for everything, witnesses to the vacation incident, and now social media posts where she's essentially admitting she invited Daniel without your consent. What about alimony? Derek, you were married 17 years, and she hasn't worked in 15. Normally, I'd be worried, but the Daniel situation changes everything. Bringing another man into the marriage, especially an ex-boyfriend, shows disrespect for the marital relationship. Plus, her mother and brother have been living off your income. So we fight it. We destroy it. I've already filed motions to protect your business assets and the house. If she wants to play hardball, we'll show her what that looks like. After hanging up, I walked through the narrow streets of Florence, watching Italian families enjoy simple meals together. Real families, where people contributed instead of just taking. My phone buzzed with a text from Daniel's number. Derek, can we talk? This has gone too far. I typed back. You're right. It went too far when you accepted my wife's invitation to my vacation. Don't contact me again. He tried calling immediately. I blocked the number. That evening, I found a small restaurant where the owner's son was getting married the next month. We talked about family, about building something worth passing down. He didn't speak much English, and my Italian was terrible, but we understood each other perfectly. Some things didn't need translation. Marcus called me a month into my stay with news that made my morning espresso taste even better. Derek, you're not going to believe what just landed on my desk. Your wife's credit card statements from the past 6 months. I was sitting on the terrace of my rented villa, watching the sun rise over the Tuscan hills. What am I not going to believe? She's been meeting Daniel regularly since January. Hotel charges, dinner receipts, even a weekend in Savannah that she told you was a girls' trip with Margaret. The pieces clicked into place. The mysterious errands. The phone calls that ended when I walked into the room. The sudden interest in reconnecting with old friends. How much are we talking about? $8,000 in hotel and restaurant charges. All on the joint credit card you've been paying off. Send me copies of everything. Already done. But Derek, there's more. I hired a private investigator to document their current living situation. Daniel's car has been parked in your driveway every night for the past 2 weeks. I wasn't surprised, but it still stung. 17 years of marriage, and she'd replaced me faster than I'd replaced a broken garbage disposal. What's our next move? We're filing an amended petition citing adultery and misuse of marital funds. In Georgia, that affects everything: property division, alimony, even attorney's fees. How soon? Papers will be served tomorrow morning. Your wife's going to have a very bad day. After hanging up, I walked down to the village market and bought ingredients for dinner. The vendor, an old Italian woman named Rosa, had been teaching me basic cooking. Tonight's lesson, osso buco, matrimonio finito, she asked in broken English, pointing to my bare ring finger. Si, finito. She patted my hand and gave me extra marrow bones. Meglio solo che male accompagnato. I looked it up later. Better alone than in bad company. Rosa was a wise woman. That evening, while my osso buco simmered, I called Belle for an update from the home front. Derek, you should see this place. It's like a soap opera. Daniel's basically moved in, but he and Stacy are fighting constantly. Margaret's telling everyone they're engaged, but Stacy's denying it. Tony's trying to get Daniel to invest in some new business scheme. What about the house? It's falling apart. Nobody's maintaining anything. The lawn looks like a jungle, and I saw a pizza delivery guy waiting outside for 20 minutes because nobody wanted to pay. I smiled. The house I'd built and maintained for 17 years was becoming exactly what its occupants deserved. Oh, and Derek, Daniel's restaurant business is worse than anyone knew. Bankruptcy papers were filed last week. So my replacement was not only a homewrecker, but also broke. Stacy really knew how to pick them. Thanks for keeping me posted, Belle. Are you happy, Derek? I mean, really happy. I looked out at the vineyard below my terrace, where workers were harvesting grapes in the fading light. Tomorrow I was driving to Rome to look at a small apartment near the Pantheon. Next week, I had meetings with 2 Italian contractors interested in hiring an American consultant. Yeah, Belle. For the first time in years, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. 6 months into my new life in Florence, a letter arrived at my rented apartment. Stacy's handwriting on the envelope made my stomach tighten, but I'd come too far to let her words affect me now. I opened it while sitting on my balcony, overlooking the Arno River, with my morning espresso steaming beside me. Derek, it began, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need to say this. You were right about everything. Daniel left the day after you filed divorce papers. Took the last $1,000 from my checking account and disappeared. Haven't heard from him since. I set the letter down and watched a tour boat drift by below. Italian tourists were laughing and taking photos, enjoying life without drama. The letter continued. Mom had to move into senior housing. Medicare wouldn't cover her medications, and without your insurance, she couldn't afford them. Tony's girlfriend kicked him out, so he's sleeping on someone's couch. The house went into foreclosure last month. I'm living in a studio apartment and working at a call center. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. I know I messed up. I know I took you for granted. Daniel made me feel young again, like I was special. But I realize now that you were the one who made me special. You gave me a life I never could have built alone. The truth, finally. Too little, too late. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. I understand if you don't. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. I folded the letter and walked to my desk, where I kept photos of my new life. The small villa I bought outside Florence. The construction project I was consulting on, a restoration of a 15th century monastery. The Italian partners who respected my expertise and treated me as an equal. I pulled out my notebook and wrote a response. Not to send, just to process my thoughts. Stacy, apologies don't rebuild trust. They don't erase years of being taken for granted. You're sorry now because you're facing consequences, not because you understood what you were doing while you were doing it. I set down my pen and made a decision. I wouldn't respond to her letter. Silence was sometimes the most powerful answer. My phone rang. Isabella, the architect I'd been working with on the monastery project. We've been spending time together lately. Dinners, long walks through Florence, conversations that didn't revolve around money or obligations. Ciao, Derek. Are you free for lunch? I want to show you something special. Always free for you, Isabella. I tossed Stacy's letter in the trash and grabbed my jacket. The past was behind me. The future was waiting. 1 year after leaving everything behind, I stood in the courtyard of the restored monastery, watching Italian craftsmen put finishing touches on stonework that would last another 5 centuries. The project was complete, beautiful, and profitable. Everything a man could want from work that mattered. Isabella walked up beside me, slipping her arm through mine. Penny for your thoughts. Just thinking about how different life looks from here. She knew my story. Not the bitter details, just the essential truth. I've been married to someone who didn't value what I brought to the table, and I'd finally chosen to find people who did. Any regrets? She asked. I considered the question seriously. The house in Westfield Heights was probably owned by a bank now. Stacy was learning what it meant to support herself. Margaret was discovering that senior living wasn't as comfortable when someone else was paying for it. None, I said honestly. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus back in Georgia. Divorce finalized yesterday. You're officially free. I showed Isabella the message. She smiled and kissed my cheek. So what happens now? She asked. Now we build something real. The monastery would become a retreat center for architects and craftsmen. Isabella and I had bought it together, equal partners in both the business and the vision. She brought artistic genius. I brought practical expertise, and together we created something neither of us could have managed alone. Derek. Isabella's voice was soft. I got an email today. A development company in Rome wants us to consult on their next project. Interested? Only if you are. We're partners, remember. Partners. The word Stacy had used to describe our marriage, but never actually practiced. Isabella understood what it meant. Equal investment, mutual respect, shared vision. I looked around the courtyard one last time. In 6 months, this place would host its first retreat. Craftsmen from around the world would come to learn traditional techniques, to build things that would outlast their creators. Let's do it, I said. We walked toward the villa we'd purchased together, where architects' plans covered our kitchen table and bottles of local wine waited for evening celebrations. Isabella stopped to examine some detail in the stonework, and I watched her work with the same passion I felt for construction. This was what partnership looked like. Not one person supporting another's dreams, but 2 people building something together. My name is Derek Bradley. I'm 49 years old. I used to flip houses for profit. Now I restore historic buildings for posterity. I used to pay for a family that saw me as an ATM. Now I share my life with someone who sees me as an equal. I refused that family vacation because my wife invited her ex-boyfriend. Best decision I ever made. Sometimes the best construction starts with tearing down what doesn't work.